I jumped on my bed excited. Finally, I could play my new Soul Silver game I bought at GameStop. The game had some rust on it, which was weird. But since they were out of the new games, and there was only one used in stock, I had to buy it. I put the game in the slot and turned on my DS. When I saw the beautiful Lugia fly across the screen, I was dazzled. I pressed start. The used file was called Psycho, which is weird. I selected the town I was in was not a town at all, but an empty world with just a black background and patches of grass. But did I care? Nope. I checked my trainer card. I had 16 badges, and I was a male character, which was pretty sad due to the fact that I was a girl, but I didn't care. I looked at the Pokemon following me. A spiky-eared Pichu. Sweet, I said in excitement. I looked at the other Pokemon. A shiny Mew and a Rotom in its washer form. I had some pretty rare Pokemon, but there was only one strange thing besides from the file name. Pichu's name. His name was Hypno. It just didn't sound right to me, but I ignored it. I talked to my spiky little friend following me. Hypno loves you. Hypno made the little heart icon. I smiled. I think I should train you, I said to the DS. I ran into the tall grass, Hypno following me. Suddenly, a battle started. A wild Sentret appeared, the screen said. Go, Hypno! Hypno's cry was a distorted mix of Hypno's cry and Pichu's cry. It sounded terrible, but I ignored it, thinking it was all just some glitch in the game. I selected Thunder for Pichu to use. Hypno ignored orders. What? I have all 16 badges! Why didn't you listen? I asked angrily. Another text box appeared. Hypno tried to use Psychic, but failed. The wild Sentret fled. The battle then ended. The only time I've seen a Pokemon fled was in the Safari Zone. So that was awkward. I talked to Hypno. A sad icon appeared over its head. Hypno is sorry. Hypno just wants to be a Hypno. Will you let Hypno be a Hypno? A yes or no question. I picked no. I like you just the way you are, I said, as I selected B. Hypno had an exclamation point over its head. Will you let Hypno be a Hypno? The screen asked again. I picked no again. This time, Hypno was enraged. He showed an angry icon on the top of his head that looked a little sad. You could see faint blood tears dripping down the angry icon's face. They were a bit hard to see, but I saw them. Will you let Hypno be a Hypno? The text box asked a final time, with blood-red letters dripping across the text box. It was hyper-realistic style, like it was stained to your DS. I picked no again, thinking this was all a hack, not a glitch. Hypno had 3 dots under its head now. The dots were bright red. Hypno wants to be a Hypno. Hypno use transform. The screen went red for 5 seconds. This was definitely some hack made by a sick, twisted person that wanted to scare the living daylights out of a child. Telling by the red screen, I could tell that something scary was bound to happen. The effect isn't working on me, I said out loud. Then the screen came back to the overworld. Hypno still looked the same. I talked to it. Hypno's cry was the same cry used in the battle against Sentret, only more lighter. A smile icon appeared over its head. The screen said nothing, though I checked his Pokemon page and gasped at what I saw. Hypno was a darker yellow, like a Hypno's color. His spike on his ear was missing, and his 2 ears were replaced with Hypno ears. One of his eyes was a Hypno's eye, and the other was a Pichu's eye. His mouth was also in a smile. He was still the same size, and he still had his cheeks. Plus, his tail was replaced by Hypno's pendulum. His moves were replaced by Psychic, moves like hypnosis and confuse ray. But instead of the move saying psychic, it said electric. It was impossible for a psychic move to be learned by an electric type move. Plus, he had no nature. I was terrified of this and switched him to Mew. The shiny Mew was beautiful. Now that it was following me, it wasn't really a she, but it wasn't it, since Mews have no gender, but let's call it a she, okay? She was level 100 and knew many graceful moves. No HM moves. Her nature was docile and won many Pokemons. After 5 steps of her, the screen went black. A text box appeared with a bloody border. Hypno does not need Mew. Hypno killed Mew. The screen then went back to the overworld. An exclamation mark appeared over my character as he looked at the once beautiful Mew. He then turned around. I checked Mew's page, and I was grossed out at what I saw. Mew's ears were removed, and half of its brain was sticking out. It had an eye patch over one of its eyes. One of its arms were missing, and so were its legs. Blood was pouring out of them. Hyper-realistic blood. Half of its tail was also gone. No info was on its page, either. It only said, dead. The only moves Mew knew was rest. I went back to the overworld. Mew used rest, the text box said, and Mew disappeared. As Mew faded away, she was replaced by Hypno. Hypno had a smile icon. Hypno took revenge on Mew for laughing at him, the text box said. Hypno did a laughing like Hypno's cry. I switched him with Rotom. He was level 68, with only electric type moves. Then I talked to it. A text box appeared. Rotom, put me back in my Pokeball. Now, quick, before Hypno finds me. The screen went black again, and the opening of a washing machine was heard. Then a rat-a-tat-tat noise was heard, as it sounded like it was being stuffed in the machine. A click was heard. I knew what was going to happen. The poor rat-a-tat-tat. The sound of the washing machine was made, and the faint noise of rat-tat-tat discording. A ding noise was made. It was back in the overworld. Rotom's bluish glow was now red. It made a wicked laugh. I checked its Pokemon page. I was disturbed at what I saw. Rotom was still the same, except it had a bloody red glow, and its eyes were crimson red. A rat-a-tat-tat, her head was seen in its washer. Its info said psycho nature. Attempts to kill others. Never gives up. I went back to the game, terrified. Rotom was gone when I stopped reading his info. Rotom has run off to kill others. You're only left with Hypno. Hypno was behind me. As the text box appeared, Hypno made a smiley face. Do you want to know why Hypno is getting revenge? The screen said. A yes or no question. I picked no, terrified, but the game just told me why. Hypno's doing this because everybody laughed at him. Because he'll never be a Hypno. Hypno proved them wrong. Do you like the new Hypno? I was scared. I didn't know what would happen if I picked no. Would I be killed in the game? Or become a psycho in real life? Or worse, become a psycho and kill myself? I knew this was no glitch. This was not a hack either. This was a terrible, terrible nightmare. I selected yes, terrified. Hypno had 3 dots under its head again. A text box appeared. Hypno, don't lie, the text box said with red letters. Hypno then pushed my sprite. Pichus were too short to push trainers, so that was impossible. Do you like the new Hypno? The screen asked again. I pressed yes again. This time, Hypno punched my sprite. Hyper-realistic blood poured out. Punching wasn't seen in the game either. Don't lie. Do you like the new Hypno? The box said again. I picked yes once more, and Hypno actually strangled my sprite and broke his arm. Now, these were all impossible things in the game. I've never seen a Pichu Hypno thing punch, push, or strangle a trainer before. More hyper-realistic blood poured out of him. Tell the truth, said the text box in huge red letters. My sprite looked like he was crying. Tears streamed down his face, as if he wanted to die, or worse. Do you like the new Hypno? The screen asked again one more time. I didn't want my sprite to die, so I picked no. I told the truth. So now you're thinking Hypno forgave you, right? You're wrong. Hypno had 3 dots under its head once more. This time he picked my sprite up, threw him onto the ground, and punched him in the stomach. Hard. More realistic blood poured out, and his ribs were showing. Now I know you won't believe it, but it happened. He actually punched so hard blood came out. These were impossible actions. I knew it, screamed Hypno. Hypno's voice sounded very low and a bit high-pitched. Hypno punched my sprite again. I knew you hated me, said Hypno. He gave my sprite a black eye. All these times, I actually had trust in you, but no, you hated me all along. It's time for your punishment, screamed Hypno, and it bit my sprite's head off. When he did so, his head turned huge. You could see the back of his bloody fangs. Now I knew why the trainer's name was Psycho. Hypno was psycho. This game is psycho! The sprite fell to the floor, dead. Realistic blood spilled everywhere. Hypno watched the dead body. It was absolutely still. Bits of blood were seen on the back of his head. Suddenly, the screen went black. After 3 seconds, the screen showed Hypno. He had blood all over his face and arms, and his smile was now a scowl, an angry scowl. A fang was sticking out. I knew you hated me all along. The screen then went black again, and the DS shut off all by itself. I was terrified by the game. I was so terrified that I felt like smashing the game to pieces. I even felt like someone was watching me. The game was cursed. I knew. All I need is a nice meal and some rest, I said to myself. Then everything will be normal. I left the game by my computer and went downstairs to have dinner. The next day, I looked out my window and smiled at the sunshine. I feel much better now, I said, smiling. I had forgotten all about the rigged game, but I did have a nightmare that night. It all started with Hypno jumping onto my computer desk and leaving a dark red blood patch where the cursed game of Soul Silver should be. I woke up in the dream and gasped. Give that back, I yelled. Hypno only hissed. I thought you loved me, it replied in a lowish, highish voice. It sounded like he sounded in the game, only more lower pitched. It sounded a bit like Hypno this time. Just as it was running away, it slapped me so hard that I went back to bed and got knocked out. No blood marks on my face or anything. That was all I could remember about the dream. As I head downstairs, I gasped at what I saw. On my computer desk, a dark red blood patch in the shape of a Pichu's handprint.